Alright, and welcome to Midsegments. Now, in this very first example, it says find the length of DE. Okay, so there's DE. Given that AD is congruent to DB, let's see, AD, so that's going to be right here, is congruent to DB. Aha, so what are they telling us? They're telling us, I can put this little line right here, that little line right there, and I know that those two segments are congruent. Or I could put two lines there, which would mean I'd have to put two lines there. As long as we have the same number of tick marks, we know that these things are congruent. Now, what's so important about that? Well, that is actually telling us that D is a midpoint. Okay, let's see, what else are we given? We are given, AE is congruent to EC. So let's see, if I go ahead and pick my blue right here, and I say, okay, AE is congruent to EC. Alright, now notice, since I put two tick marks on the lines on the left, I can only put one tick mark or three tick marks. You know, I can put like less than that or more than that, but I have to have a different number of tick marks to show that this is congruent to this, but different from AD and DB. Now, what's so important about that? Well, that also tells us that point E is also a midpoint, which brings us to the definition of a mid-segment. It is a segment in a triangle where both endpoints, I will kind of abbreviate there, both endpoints are midpoints and the segment is parallel to the base. Okay, so I'll say it one more time. Mid-segments. It's a segment in a triangle where both endpoints are midpoints and the segment is parallel to the base. So since this is a midpoint and this is a midpoint, we know that this must be a mid-segment. Now, what is also true about mid-segment? Well, it's parallel to the base, and here's the best part. It is always, and I really can't stress this word always enough, it is always half the length of the base. And guys, that's going to be our key property as we go through these problems. Alright, so we know that whatever DE is, let's say DE was X, well, we know that BC would be 2X. It would be double that. Alright, let's go into our first example. I would ask you all to pause this, finish writing the definition, and let's dive on in. Okay, in geometry, we've actually had quite a few of these. So we know that DE is 4x plus 8. So let's see here. We'll write DE and 4x plus 8. And let's see, what if we said that DE was congruent to BC? And of course, that would mean 4x plus 8 is equal to 11x minus 14. And if I said, is that a true or false statement? You would hopefully say false. Because what do we know? We know that in order to go from here to here, we have to multiply by 2. And so, in fact, we're going to multiply this side right here by 2. Okay. So, we can now solve this, just like normal. If we know that the mid-segment is half the length of the base, we just multiply it by 2. Alright, so, let's go ahead and tackle this. We'll distribute. 2 times 4x is 8x. 2 times 8 is going to be 16, is equal to 11x minus 14. And what should we move first? Our smaller x or our constant? Well, of course, we know we're going to move our smaller x, minus 8x. And of course, that zeroes out. And we're given 16 is equal to 11 minus 8 is 3x minus 14. Well, I add 14 to both sides to get rid of my subtraction. And now we have 30 is equal to 3x. After we divide both sides by 3, we get x is equal to 10. You guys, I still have so many students stopping here. But no, guys, that is clearly not the answer. Now, what is the question asking us for? Let me just kind of give myself some space here. The question is asking us for the length of DE. And we notice DE is the half segment. So DE is 4x plus 8, where we know x is 10. Well, guys, 4 times 10 is, of course, 40 plus 8. We can say that DE is equal to 48 inches. And so I could actually write 48 right there. Now, just as an aside, if you wanted to find the length of BC, you could just multiply 48 by 2, and so 48 times 2 is actually going to be 96. So this is 48 inches, and that's 96 inches, but remember, we were looking for DE. Alright guys, that was a lot of setup. Let's move on to our second example, and we're going to move so much faster. Okay, here we are in example 2, and this is find the length of BC when given point D and E are midpoints. Well guys, if those are midpoints, then that is telling us that DE is in fact a mid-segment. Okay, because remember, our mid-segment is basically formed by two midpoints. Now let's go and label the parts that we're given. We know that DE is 5x. We know that BC is going to be 17x minus 60. And of course, guys, when we're setting this up, let me switch colors here. We can go ahead and say, you know what? If I were to write 5x is equal to 17x minus 60, I know that that would be incorrect. And it would be incorrect until I multiplied my mid-segment by 2. Now from here we can go ahead and solve this. Now guys, I'm showing you all this one because this is actually kind of interesting algebraically. 2 times 5x is 10x is equal to 17x minus 60. And if you were to move the smaller x first, as I tell you all to do all the time, you would actually wind up in a weird situation. So let me say it like this. There are only x's on the left. There are x's and constants on the right. So another way to think about this is we want all of our x's on one side and all of our constants on another. So this is one of the few times where I would actually encourage you to subtract both sides by 17x. Okay, so in this case, this is one of the few times that it's actually better to move your larger x rather than your smaller x. Now what happens? Well, we get negative 7x is equal to negative 60. And since both sides are negative, I don't know if anyone's ever told you this, since both sides are negative, they're actually both positive. And we see that because when we divide both sides by negative 7, well, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. 60 divided by 7, of course, getting a decimal because it'll be nicer to work with, will be 8.57. Now from here, what's the question asking us for? Is it asking us for DE or BC? And in this case, since it's asking for BC, we have to use the 17x minus 60. Now, of course, guys, our x value is what we just found, 8.57. And let's go ahead and multiply through. 17 times 8.57 will be 145.69 minus 60. And when we do that, what are we going to get? We're going to get 85.69. Alright? Hey, this works out pretty nice. Oh, and let me label this correctly. We'll just say BC is equal to 85.69. Now remember, if you wanted to get to DE, instead of multiplying this by 2, since it's actually the base, you would divide it by 2 to get to the mid-segment. So let's just even do that just to kind of elaborate on the problem. Yeah, we'd say the mid-segment is 42.85. Alright? Hey, I hope this helps. I'll catch y'all in our next video.